All right, we're live. NFL free agency has begun. The Texans started off bringing back a familiar face. It was inevitable. We knew it was going to happen. Sheldon Rankins, he's back. Seems like it was a poorly kept secret. We'll react to everything going on right now. I think there's probably a lot of people in a frenzy because Twitter is down, but hey, life still goes on here. The big moves so far today. Biggest one. Chris Godwin is heading back to the Bucks. He signs a 3-year deal in Tampa, $44 million guaranteed for Chris Godwin. Was never going to end up in Houston. Could have very well ended up in the division, perhaps in Jacksonville, but he stays in Tampa Bay. We also had the DK Metcalf news over the weekend. There was talk about a first and a third. That never ended up happening. He goes for a second to Pittsburgh, still gets the $30 million, but the quarterback situation pretty rough there. So they'll have to figure that out. The Rankins deal, though, I think is interesting for the Texans. If we want to hop into this, and be sure to ride along in the chat. SNL will be live at 4 o'clock as well. A couple other moves that impact the Texans that aren't necessarily free agent moves that we'll get to. The price just keeps going up for all the Texans players. But let's start right with the Rankins move and what this means for the Texans. It's a 1-year deal worth up to $7 million. Diana Rossini broke the news. 1 year, $7 million, which is it's lower than they gave him 2 years ago. And at one point, Sheldon Rankins was actually the highest paid annual value of a D'Amico Ryans or a Nick Caserio free agent. And the Texans signed Sheldon Rankins to the 1-year deal 2 years ago. They wanted to bring him back last year, but the price was a little bit too high. 1 year into that 2-year deal, he's on the market. So their thoughts about the price, their line in the sand actually ends up kind of paying off. And now Sheldon Rankins is back with the Texans on a $7 million deal. With D'Amico Ryans. I remember Rankins interviewing him after the playoffs or during the playoff run. And there was, he talked about talking to the guys and the leadership and all that. And I thought that D'Amico was going to bring him back no matter what, but the line in the sand is there. So I think it looks good for D'Amico Ryans. Overdose Boxing says the Texans should get Darius Slayton. What is that price? I'm not a big Darius Slayton guy. I really don't understand why a guy that's been in the league 6 years and has never had 800 yards is someone who's someone that you would really want to bring in. What is Darius Slayton going to provide for the Texans? What are we looking for with Darius Slayton? It just kind of seems like for what's the reason for Darius Slayton? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Texans own free agents that they got to think of and think about. Now, Stephon Diggs, I've seen reports out there that Stephon Diggs is probably not going to end up with the Texans, and the Texans will likely address wide receiver in free agency on kind of a lower scale now that they've already added Kirk, and they'll perhaps approach it in the draft. And I think that's their biggest opportunity. The Texans' biggest opportunity to improve is within in the draft. The whole opportunity in free agency is not it's not really the way that you significantly improve your squad. You don't significantly improve your squad in free agency. More times than not, these guys sign deals, and halfway into the deal, we see it with Rankins right now. Halfway into the deal, you're either on the market or you're a free agent. And you're looking. You got to find bargain guys to help your team. 1-year deals, short term. We saw the Eagles last year with Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton's going to test the market. Mekhi Becton was a bust. Philadelphia signs him. He's a part of one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL. And now he's probably going to get paid, and someone's going to overpay him. The Eagles decided to bring back Braun. They felt like he could be a part of their squad. But a lot of times you bring in guys, even rookies, you develop them, and then other teams pay them, and hopefully you're able to keep adding players and churning your roster, and that's how you get the job done. That's why the Texans, you can look at the Sheldon Rankins sandwich and how the Texans started out. Texans started out free agency. They started out giving Sheldon Rankins a 1-year deal. 2 years after they gave him a 1-year deal, and sandwiched in between that was a 2-year deal from the Bengals that was done halfway through. That's the way the Texans are going to approach it. That's the way that the Texans are going to approach it. And that's how they're going to have to approach it, because not only is the cap space limited, but the Texans right now are going to have some high bills due. And I mean high bills due sooner rather than later, because the market keeps getting jacked up for their guys that they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay 3 guys in the next couple of years if they want to keep them around. They might have to make some tough decisions. But Derek Stingley, we got a decent idea of what the Derek Stingley contract is going to look like. J.C. Horn, he gets a 4-year deal worth $100 million, $70 million guaranteed. He has the exact same agent as Derek Stingley and David Mulligetta, who's also the agent for C.J. Stroud. And we saw what Josh Allen got paid. So that price is getting jacked up. Josh Allen signs a record-setting deal. Couple days after, Max Crosby signed a record-setting deal, which was a couple days before Myles Garrett signed a record-setting deal. That's edge. That's Will Anderson. So when it comes to free agency, the Texans are going to have to get in the business of finding guys on 1-year deals, because they're not going to be in the market for high-price free agents. It's not going to be the case. You don't see Kansas City in that market. You don't see Buffalo in that market. You don't see Baltimore in that market. Now, the last couple of years, there's been opportunity to where if you desire to get in that market, and we saw them do it last year, then you can do it. And they were able to do it. But right now, the Texans are being set up to where they're gonna have to figure some stuff out. And just like that, the top center is off the market. The Bears are in that market that the Texans were in. Center Drew Dahlman agrees to terms to a 3-year, $42 million contract, according to Ian Rappaport, $28 million guaranteed. So we've seen the Bears trade for Tunney, and we've seen the Bears now add Drew Dahlman on a 3-year deal worth $42 million. So they're giving a center $14 million a year, and this is their effort to protect Caleb Williams. They have that. They're in the place where the Texans were last year. We do have some news now with the Texans. The Texans have signed a wide receiver per Adam Schefter, Braxton Berrios. Former Miami Dolphins wide receiver Braxton Berrios is signing with the Houston Texans. I don't know about that. Kind of seems like he's been bounced around a little bit. Maybe this is a situation where Nick Caley likes him. I mean, the Braxton Berrios situation is this feels like a camp body, but maybe there's a little something there. You look at Berrios last season with the Dolphins. 6 games, no game started, 238 yards and a touchdown. The year before that, he's only started 6 games in 6 years. Started with the Jets and the Dolphins. This feels a little bit like maybe there's some sort of special teams there. Maybe this is a better Robert Woods. Maybe they feel like they can get something out of him with in the Robert Woods category. Don't know. Nothing to write home about. Wide receiver still a big need. Wide receiver still a big need. I don't know what Braxton Berrios does for anyone. But this is how they started off free agency. Last year, they started off free agency. Do you remember how they started off free agency last year? They signed Lonnie Johnson. Lonnie Johnson. If you're just tuning in, the Bears take off one of the top centers on the market. Drew Dahlman is signing with Chicago, 3 years, $42 million. And it's kind of interesting to see, and you kind of get a mirror image. And I think Chicago is a natural localized here. You get kind of a mirror image of where the Texans were last year and what Chicago's doing, and where the Texans are now and what they got to figure out. Braxton Berrios. So the Texans today, they've signed 2 guys. They bring back Sheldon Rankins. And they got Braxton Berrios on the back end of that receiving corps. He's probably better than John Mechie right now. So maybe he's a Mechie replacement. 1 year, $2 million. I mean, that's nothing. I don't know that he's even guaranteed a roster spot if he comes into camp and looks bad. But put his name in pencil in the wide receiver corps, in the wide receiver group. This is not quite cooking, but again, we said this. The Texans, they're not going to be cooking in free agency. That ship's kind of sailed when it comes to what the Texans are going to be doing. They're going to be finding bargains. I don't think you expect Braxton Berrios to be an impact guy this year. I don't think that they expect him to be a significant impact guy this year. Braxton Berrios is the guy. So there you go. Special teams, whatever. Robert Woods replacement. Evan says, yeah, perhaps. Robert Woods replacement again. Could be a John Mechie replacement even. I think that's possible. Jerome Kick says, Mechie gets mentioned in every live. I'll be glad if he gets released or traded. We could stop talking about him. We limit the dialogue. I mean, I'm not like anticipating for John Mechie breakout season. He was your number 3 receiver before today. He might still be. I don't know. Depending if that epic camp showdown between John Mechie and Braxton Berrios plays out. But yeah, this is just back in depth at wide receiver, and they definitely needed that. And there you go. You got Braxton Berrios. Camp body, nice competition for Mech. If Mech is here. Who knows? Cameron asks, what are the chances of Lockett? Don't really know. You got to wonder if now he does go to Las Vegas. That was kind of the thought before, was that he could end up in Las Vegas. And now Geno Smith's there. So they might have some sort of chemistry. They might keep the band together with Geno Smith and him. The Braxton Berrios thing, that's just kind of a guy. Other news coming down. We have a guard off of the market. The Cardinals, they're going to re-sign starting left guard Evan Brown to a 2-year deal. This according to Josh Weinfuss, the Cardinals reporter. So Evan Brown, 2-year deal. So we've had a couple of offensive linemen off the board now. Evan Brown, he's going to stay in Arizona. And Drew Dahlman, he reaches an agreement with the Bears, 3-year deal. Earlier, we had Chris Godwin for 3 years. I don't even think that pipe dream was around locally. There was kind of chatter about whether or not the Jags could be in on him, Chris Godwin, but that's not going to happen. As far as the Texans free agents, Stephon Diggs, it would be interesting if he got a deal today. That would mean it was just like a really, really, really solid deal. That would be one of the big surprises. Robert Woods, I think that ship has kind of sailed. If you were entertaining the possibility of Robert Woods and the return of the ghost of Robert Woods, I think that's kind of gone. Then you have Irv Smith Jr. Don't know if you really have to rush there. That could be something you do last minute or some sort of emergency situation. Don't think people are dying for him. Kendrick Green, he's gone. He was very disgruntled and pissed off on the back end. And quite frankly, they did everything they could not to put him on the field. You got to think that he's gone. Fatukasi they like, but I wonder if they're kind of shifting the way that they're spending that D-line money with Rankins to where maybe they're not looking at Fatukasi as much, and they're looking in a different direction, and maybe they're going to be a little bit cheaper at the one tech. I do wonder if they're going to have the Nico Autry on the roster. I know they liked him a lot. They also like Sheldon Rankins. You could save some money releasing Autry. I wonder if that is going to be something that they kind of move on from as well. I could very much see that to where they're using resources elsewhere. Other free agents, Mario Edwards Jr., that was kind of one of their finds. Derek Barnett, Jerry Hughes. I would dismiss Hughes as a possible return. Mario Edwards Jr., I would say he's probably gone with the addition of Sheldon Rankins, but never say never. I don't know that there's going to be a market for him. Neville Hewitt, they like him. And then Devin White, that was a nice tire kick, not really worth it. And then I think you can chuck the peace sign up to Jeff Okudah. Eric Murray, we'll see what happens. Although you do kind of get the vibe that Eric Murray's never going to go away. All right, so we have a D tackle off the board now. Defensive tackle BJ Hill. He's signing a 3-year, $33 million deal that it includes $16 million guaranteed with the Bengals per Adam Schefter. So if you were thinking DT still, that's not going to happen. Another guy off the board at potential positions of need. He's going to be gone. BJ Hill, cross him off your boards. No go. There. He's a white receiver, could be Julian Edelman. Talking about Braxton Berrios. Race car! Does Berrios have any history with anyone on the coaching staff? I do not believe so. Miami, no. And then the Jets. I don't think so. But again, special teams, you're looking at the back end. I think Christian Kirk, you're looking at the Christian Kirk thing, and he's kind of replacing Tank Dell. Braxton Berrios is replacing somewhere between Robert Woods and John Mechie. So your wide receiver room was really thin. That's kind of where you're at. Who the F is that? Just look it up. So it's a white slot receiver, basically a token slot, if you will. Scott says CJ is going to be carried off a stretcher if they don't fix the offensive line. I don't know that they're going to fix the offensive line today, my friend. And I don't know that investments necessarily mean fixing anything when it comes to the evaluation of the offensive line with this regime and with this organization, what we've seen from Caserio. Another DT off the board. Javon Kinlaw is going to sign in Washington. He is the deals, the terms of that deal not out, but Adam Schefter says that Javon Kinlaw is going to Washington. So DTs and interior offensive linemen, we're kind of seeing those kind of depleted a little bit. So he is gone. Braxton Berrios, we say WTF, but he might be better than most of what they got, which is sad. Which is sad, but it's reality at the wide receiver position. I still think that wide receiver is the biggest need for this squad, even on top of O-line. I think the O-line gets coached up, it gets tweaked. But yeah, I think that. The Chiefs got a tackle. They're signing Jalen Moore of the San Francisco 49ers. They're signing him to a 2-year, $30 million contract. So the Chiefs are kind of bargain hunting. You've seen the Chiefs have to say goodbye to some expensive players in free agency. This is actually a pretty big spend from what we've seen from the Chiefs in free agency lately. And this is kind of the model that we're going to get. Jalen Moore, according to Mike Garafolo, getting a 2-year, $30 million deal with the Chiefs. That's going to be kind of along the same lines where the Texans eventually get to. You're not going to be able to have all these expenses and everything else. The San Francisco names that are getting brought up that are kind of the splashes. Talona Hufanga is getting brought up in the chat. The safety out of San Francisco. I think someone described him as swarm as F. Talking about Talona Hufanga. And he was actually a guy at D'Amico Ryan's introductory press conference. He was one of the guys that got mentioned. And he was an all-pro when D'Amico left. He was one of the better safeties now in the league that year. He's had a rough couple of years. I do wonder what the price is. Sometimes the safety market's crazy. Like, there was one year where the safeties were just getting completely paid. And then the very next year, all those guys were cut and nobody was paying safeties. It's been that way. The running back market's kind of gone up and down. I think it's kind of shifting a little bit like towards the middle to where they were extremely undervalued. But the safety position is something that you can't predict. You can predict corners are going to get paid. Tackles are going to get paid. Edge guys are going to get paid. Usually overpaid, because by nature you're overpaying in free agency. That's one of my favorite Mike Meltzer quotes. But safeties, you never know. So I know Justin Reed is on the market. I mean, he's coming off what he did in Kansas City, couple Super Bowls, did his thing with the Texans. And then you have Hufanga, who D'Amico Ryans has familiarity with. They definitely need to figure something out there at safety. And if they don't, they definitely need to have someone who's capable of starting games, because the safety position on this team, if you're going to put yourself in position to where Jimmy Ward is your best option opposite Bullock, it's inevitable that guys are going to have to start games. And I don't know if they end up ripping up that Jimmy Ward extension that they gave, but Hufanga is a guy. I saw that someone reported that Mike Silver is saying that Dre Greenlaw could be someone to keep an eye on. I don't know if that's based on actual interest or just the connection that D'Amico has with Dre Greenlaw. But I do think that as you're kind of looking at the Texans roster and you're looking at the needs, I do think running back or linebacker is kind of an underrated, potentially weak area of this team. And my reasoning is this. I think that D'Amico Ryans is always going to coach up the linebackers. We saw it last year, like when guys were out. We saw D'Amico Ryans do his thing. We saw him get the most of those guys. But I think he might have like maxed out what you could expect with that type of quality. And the Kinlaw deal is a 3-year deal. So Kinlaw, a 3-year deal with Washington is what he gets. Other moves, BJ Hill got a 3-year, $33 million deal with the Bengals, $16 million guaranteed per Adam Schefter. Evan Brown got a 2-year deal, according to Josh Weinfuss, And the Texans did sign Braxton Berrios, which doesn't seem to have too many people too exciting. But that's kind of where we are at linebacker, and the upside, and like if you look at the 2-year window, I don't know, like if Azeez Shire is by far your best linebacker, and Henry To'o is your starting linebacker, do you have that good of a linebacking core? And I like what To'o gives you. I think if everybody maxed out their potential like To'o, you'd feel good about it. But the linebacker position, like if he wanted to bring in a guy like a Dre Greenlaw, a little bit of nasty, put him with Azeez Shire, that'll be interesting, because I don't feel like you have a long-term linebacker right now that you feel certain is going to be a part of this team for a long time moving forward. Like on the D line, you have Will Anderson. Will Anderson's going to be the face of the defense, might be the face of the damn team. Corner, you have Stingley and Bullock, or Stingley and Lassiter. Safety, you have Bullock. Linebacker, you don't really have like a long-term guy. You thought maybe Christian Harris would develop into that guy. And Christian Harris right now, a little bit kind of getting slept on. I think he was probably the most popular answer last year of guys who you thought would have breakout years, and of guys that you thought would benefit from Nico, hadn't been able to stay healthy. So at the linebacker position, I do wonder if D'Amico kind of wants to invest something at that position. I mean, it's kind of his background. It's kind of his backing. I think he kind of leans defense. Hashtag D'Amico, no O. But I wouldn't sleep on it. If you get Greenlaw, do you move on from Harris? Why would you do that? You have Harris under contract for very cheap. That would be crazy. Now, maybe they thought they could get something for him. Why not? Why? But I'm not dismissing the possibility of Christian Harris looking like a good football player. I think you have pretty good leverage too. Christian Harris is, I don't want to say he's like fighting for his football life. Like he's talented enough to be able to bounce around the league, but Christian Harris is still a good player. He's still got a lot of potential. So I don't think you punt on Christian Harris. No. But if you bring in Greenlaw, you got pretty nasty linebacking group. But you got to think at some point, D'Amico Ryans looks over there and says, damn, a little thin at linebacker. It is the free agency live stream. This is the Locker Room. Landry Locker here. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. Get in the comments. SNL will kind of take this all in, and we'll break this thing down starting at 4 o'clock, which we do weekly. Myself and Cody Stoots both doing little live streams right now, and then we'll collaborate at 4 on SNL and get that whole thing going. Who is D'Amico going to target on defense is really the question. Right now, we've seen Sheldon Rankins. The defensive line situation is going to be interesting. Last year, they were able to find Tim Settle. Now, it was kind of a pivot because initially they wanted Eric Armstead, according to multiple reports. But they pivoted into Tim Settle. They brought in Foley Fatukasi. Mario Edwards was kind of a last-second thing. They brought in Danico Autry. Now, what are they going to do on defense? How important do they think filling those pieces is on defense? The offensive line, I got a theory on the offensive line that I'll get to in 5 minutes. I think we're going to see a move sooner rather than later on the offensive line. And I think once I lay this theory out, I think it'll make a little bit of sense for you. But the D'Amico defense thing is interesting. He's brought in his kind of guy in Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins is back. What's next? They need cornerback depth. They need safety. They need D tackle. They have a lot of needs on defense. What's next? Oh, by the way, they got some bills. They got some bills that are going to be due. So you can't be spending and investing too much money. Derek Stingley, like you have a starting point for Derek Stingley. 4 years, $100 million. You're not going to be able to get anywhere else. Same agent that negotiated J.C. Horn's 4-year extension today, $70 million. He knows that Derek Stingley is better than J.C. Horn. So that's a starting point. So you're going to have to bargain shop. That's where the Texans are. You're going to have to bargain shop. We'll see how they figure that out. I think it could be a very quiet day today. There's a chance we're talking about Sheldon Rankins and Berrios. But I also would be willing to bet, and I think y'all can probably agree with this. I think that it's kind of obvious that they have to like a guard in free agency. They have to have some sort of idea of one of these guards and potentially signing them. Because the Shaq Mason decision has to mean that they like someone or have agreed to him. Wait, they can't talk to anyone till today. But they didn't have to cut Shaq last week. So there has to be some sort of idea that they have about which guard they like. And I would think that today we get news that the Texans have signed a guard. Potentially a right guard. The most popular name, Kevin Zeitler with the Lions. I think he played on a 1-year, around $7 million contract last year. That's the most popular name that gets thrown out there. Look, I don't know what he's going to look like. I mean, he's kind of in the territory where he could be a free agent flop. And I don't think you can completely ignore the natural trust issues that come with it when this team signs an offensive lineman. But yeah, I think Kevin Zeitler would be fine. Why have we not signed Kevin Zeitler? Rocky asks. Not sure. A lot of laughing at Braxton Berrios. What do we have against Braxton Berrios? We're laughing at Braxton Berrios, but we should be laughing at John Mechie, Robert Woods, and Xavier Hutchinson. That's what we should be laughing at. Maybe he's a more willing special teams player than those guys. Although I'm not quite sure, but Braxton Berrios, we're laughing. We should be laughing at the back end of this depth chart. It's crazy, probably an upgrade. Are they the same? I would say Berrios is probably better than Mechie, right? Is that fair or unfair to say? I know Berrios got buried in Miami. Miami at least had a decent wide receiver core. John Mechie has been buried here and incapable of taking advantage of opportunities that he's got. How do I feel about Will Fries? I have no opinion about Will Fries. I know Stoots broke it down yesterday that Will Fries, Cody Stoots gets hard for guards. That's what Cody Stoots should have a shirt that says hard for guards. He loves breaking down a good mid-tier free agent guard. Hard for guards. Will Fries, I don't know. Free agency for me, I'm more of an in-season guy. Like in-season is when I thought Reaction Monday, pressers, reaction to games, all that. That's my wheelhouse. I don't pretend to know these guards. We're all reading the same stuff. There's a lot of media types. They'll read the stuff. It's the same bullet points. Some guys will go back and watch the tape. Some guys will watch a few highlights and act like they're watching the tape. The John Harris's, the Seth Paynes, they'll go watch the actual all 22. It's a few hour investment. It's not just highlights, and they'll break down the guards. For me, I'm just being honest. I'll watch every snap that they play here. I'll watch everything that goes on here. Every inch of every detail that happens when they come here, we'll figure out, and we'll consume as much information as possible. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Will Fries. Stoots puts a lot into that. The other guys put a lot into that. There is no expertise that I have in guards. Stoots is the one that's hard for guards. David Jackson Music says Berrios is a great kick return and gadget play guy. He's fast AF boy. Does he have deceptive speed? Race car! I have no problem with it. It's an upgrade at a weak position on the back end. I can promise you Braxton Berrios has no impact on what this team does in the draft. He has no impact on what this team does in the secondary market at wide receiver. He pushes John Mechie and or Robert Woods out. One of those guys is gone. Both of them could be gone. That's it. And quite frankly, it's been kind of an exhausting experiment, this whole thing. So the Braxton Berrios thing, not there. He's not Danny Amendola. Who Nick Caserio, if you remember, said was a Houston Texan for life, which is crazy. Here we go. D-Hop. Maybe get D-Hop to replace Diggs if the price is right. I'm good on that. I'm good on D-Hop. Nice career. Great job, everything. I'm sure that there will be some opportunities for D-Hop to fire up the crowd. But I'm good on Nuke. Can move on from Nuke. Yes, Braxton Berrios, he's sneaky fast. First one in, last one out. He's gritty. Deceptively fast. Lunch pail. Studies his playbook. Hashtag bring him home, DeAndre Hopkins. It's a big thing. I don't know what this means. D-Hop won't take the pay we offer. Don't know what that means, dog. Andy, swarm into the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Any tight ends in free agency worth getting? I don't know that they're going to sign one in free agency. I think if they get the opportunity in the draft and they like one, they might do that. You never know what the tight end market is going to be. It's kind of unpredictable. But no, I don't see any. And quite frankly, it's kind of a punch in the dong every time you see one of these tight ends re-sign. Like I think Zach Ertz signed for like $6 million or something. Like his contract, his 2 years in Washington have just he's essentially last year. Zach Ertz basically did, and it might have even been a better version. He did what Dalton Schultz did for CJ Stroud his rookie year. That's what he did. And let's just look at the stats. So Zach Ertz last year with Washington, he had 66 catches and 7 touchdowns. 66, 7, and 654. 66, 7, and 654. Dalton Schultz in CJ Stroud's rookie year, he had 59, 5, and 635. So Ertz had 7 more catches, 2 more touchdowns, and 19 more yards than Dalton Schultz. And this was on like a $4 million, like damn near minimum deal. So in year 2, Washington realizes, well, Zach Ertz is pretty important to what we got going. And he signs a 1-year, $6.25 million deal with $3 million in incentives. So he's still making $2 million less than CJ Stroud. And this is after signing damn near a minimum deal. And they traded a 5th round pick for Deebo Samuel. The Texans did the trade for Diggs. Like, I don't think we can reiterate how much of a failure the Texans put together with how they use the rookie deal. And you just can look at Washington. Look at Washington and Chicago. They're in the same situation. Chicago signed the top center on the market today. They brought in one of the most respected offensive linemen in the league. But Washington got more production out of Zach Ertz, and 2 years of Zach Ertz is going to be more than 1 year of Dalton Schultz from last year and this year. I mean, that's right there in front of you. It's not the best investing that the Texans have done. Sometimes they have a line in the sand, sometimes they don't. But that's what it is. Swarming back to the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
You think the Texans will draft O-line help / depth or pick some up in free agency? I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 15, 20 minutes, we don't hear about the Texans signing some offensive line depth. By the way, we have some news that impacts the Houston Texans and the division. We'll get to in just a sec. First, back to the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Andres Lopez asks, Hutch, Mechie, Woods, any worth keeping? I could do without. Hutch is fine. Hutch is going into year 3. He's a back end 5'6". He doesn't mind playing special teams. I have no problem with Xavier Hutchinson. I don't think like Xavier Hutchinson was a day 3 pick. He's getting better each year. He works his ass off. I like that. When I say Xavier Hutchinson, like in like a defeated way, it's not because he's like some sort of disappointing player. It's the fact that because of the layout of the position, you almost have to expect him to do a little bit more than maybe he's capable of or has been capable of 2 years in. But he could develop into a good player. Like I'm not dismissing Xavier Hutchinson. Mechie, I just think it's time. Like it's time to just accept that that's not going to happen. And as much as they want to force feed it, where they're like, whenever any play is made, it's treated like the Super Bowl because they like him so much. He had that tackle on the pump block that I think that most of you could have made. That was as much about Frank Ross seeing stuff on tape as anything. Heard him break it down. I could do without that. Robert Woods is done. The Robert Woods ship has sailed. So no on that. News out of Jacksonville. We have a signing. The Jacksonville Jaguars have agreed to a 3-year deal with cornerback Jordan Lewis. He is going to get 3 years with the Jags. He had 10 picks in 8 seasons with the Cowboys. Kind of one of those ball hawk type of dudes. Jordan Lewis, he's going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's been getting rid of a lot of guys. Jacksonville, I just always assume whenever the Jags sign a free agent, he's going to suck. They don't have the best recent track record of signing free agents. So I just always assume that whenever they sign a free agent, he's going to suck. And this is from ESPN. I'll put this up here. So the Jags reporter reports this. And this is from ESPN.com. We already have the Texas Braxton man, that Berrios Jordan Lewis showdown, that's going to be epic. They might have to put that at the start of the season, prime time. Berrios. Although I think Jordan Lewis is actually a really good tire kick. If we're being serious, I think that's a good deal for Jacksonville. Really good deal for Jacksonville. Man, I mean it's a low end type of thing. A few years ago, we thought he was going to be one of those big things, but yeah. So that's what we got. Right now, we got Braxton Berrios. We got Sheldon Rankins. Quiet start for the Texans. You never know when they're going to strike. Last year, you went hours without. They had all that money. Went hours without. We have a linebacker off the market. I don't think anyone expected the Texans to be in on this, but Robert Spillane has agreed to a 3-year, $37 million contract with the Patriots. Jeremy Fowler with the report there. He was a Las Vegas Raider. There was thought that maybe he would be back, but Spillane gets a 3-year, $37 million deal. Good for him. Always seems like that dude's around the ball on primetime games. Maybe because before that, like the Steelers and Raiders, they both play in a lot of primetime games. Jimmy Garoppolo. He is re-signing with the Rams. Remember when Jimmy Garoppolo, we kind of feared that Jimmy Garoppolo might be the quarterback of the Texans. Remember when it was all Patriot way and it was like Nick Caserio knows Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jimmy Garoppolo might be a Texan. What a career that guy's made for himself. Andres on the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Do we have a true wide receiver 2 or RB2? Anything coming? I think Christian Kirk can perform to the caliber of a number 2 wide receiver. Can you count on him? Haven't been able to the last 2 years. But quite frankly, you haven't been able to count on Tank Dell the last few years. 2 years. His first 2 years in the league, you've had 2 season-ending injuries. wasn't performing well before that. And Diggs got hurt as well. You can make a case that the Texans haven't really been. You don't even really have to make a case. The Texans haven't really, like, over the course of their history, like having a number 2 wide receiver that you can just consistently count on has been a problem. I would say the best two number 2 receivers in recent Texans history with a certain amount of upside have been Will Fuller and Tank Dell. And Fuller, we know how often Will Fuller got hurt. And Tank Dell has had 2 very unfortunate season-ending injuries 2 years into the league. Christian Kirk kind of been the same thing the last couple of years. Now, the performance can be there. He's a slot guy. I don't think he prevents you from using the asset that it may take to acquire someone that you think can be that type of player, whether it be a first round or second round pick on a wide receiver. I don't think he prevents you from doing that. But can you just hammer home and bet the farm that Christian Kirk is going to be a solid WR2? No, I don't think so. RB2, no, they don't. And I think they've kind of neglected the running back position and running back depth. Right now they got Dare Gumbawale. But no, they don't have a solid RB2. They don't trust Dameon Pierce unless it's mop-up duty. So, yeah. I don't think Kenny Stills was a 2. Brandon Cooks was a 1 here. He was never a 2. He was never not the best wide receiver on the team when he was here. So, yeah, if you could have gotten Brandon Cooks when you got him as your number 2, I think you would have been cooking. No pun intended. But Brandon Cooks was a number one here. Not a number one anywhere else, but he was a number one here. The Titans have spent some money. Good Lord. And I think this kind of points. I think we're heading towards Cam Ward being the number one pick in the draft. These are the type of moves that you make when you're going to these are the type of moves you make when you're going to draft a rookie quarterback. And this is from ESPN.com. Offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr. The Titans love to play free agent. And this should always this should make you, this should not strike fear into your heart. I know there's always like the initial, oh, damn, this sucks whenever a team in the division spends in free agency. But how often does it work? Jacksonville was like the free agency champions for multiple years, and it's been a complete dumpster fire. They've gotten rid of their coach and GM since when they were doing this. And now they're going to sign Dan Moore Jr. From Pittsburgh. He was fourth round pick in 2021. He's their starting left tackle. He's only missed one game the last 2 years, which is good. He's from Beaumont. So that's a plus. He's got some Texas blood in him. But 4 years, $82 million for Dan Moore. And you got to think they're going the rookie quarterback. That's it's a Texas A&M guy. Dan Moore. So maybe there's some Aggie Titan fans that are excited about that. Yeah, I think the Titans are going to take a quarterback. I think it's a thing. Speaking of quarterbacks, there's all this talk about Aaron Rodgers and Sam Darnold and all that stuff. Is there any worse place to be than QB hell? If you look at the situation, and I have a QB hell group. Indy, Pittsburgh, Jets, Cleveland, Seattle, and the Giants. That is the group of QB hell, where you're not at the top of the draft where you can get a quarterback and even convince yourself there's hope. And you're talking about either overpaying Sam Darnold, bringing in Aaron Rodgers, or who the hell knows, bringing back Russell Wilson. That is a tough place to be. And I think we've seen it. We've witnessed it with Indianapolis for a number of years. But QB hell is a tough place to be. Carlton Davis is going to sign a 3-year deal with the Patriots per Tom Pelissero. He's acting like he's on the phone right now. But it looks like Carlton Davis is going to sign. Does it not feel like, it feels like every time I see Carlton Davis, he's getting cooked? Maybe I'm just seeing stuff. It just feels like he's always getting cooked every time I see Carlton Davis. But the news in the AFC South, if you're just tuning in, these are the moves in the division. Braxton Berrios, 1 year, $2 million. A lot of people kind of mocking this move. I think you could do a lot worse than that. Quite frankly, I think that this is bad for John Mechie and it's bad for Robert Woods. But I don't think it's like some sort of solution. It's like the Lonnie Johnson move last year when it was kind of getting mocked. No harm, no foul. The Jaguars, they signed Jordan Lewis. 10 interceptions last year in 8 seasons with the Cowboys. And then the Titans spending a lot of money. Dan Moore Jr. set to sign a 4-year, $82 million contract with the Tennessee Titans. This deal includes $50 million guaranteed. So there you go. Derek Barnett is going to be back with the Houston Texans. We have a move there. Derek Barnett will be back. This is kind of a no-brainer. He's very low maintenance. Derek Barnett, 1-year deal. I think Derek Barnett is an example of D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke. And Matt Burke was kind of familiar with his game. D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke finding a guy they like and him making an impact. He had more touchdowns than John Mechie last year. He just likes to handle his business, doesn't like to talk. Whether he scores a touchdown or doesn't play, Derek Barnett just likes to handle his business. These are just kind of the rotational guys. No big impacts, but the Texans have shown they kind of want to keep their guys when they have the opportunity for the right price. Derek Barnett will be back. I think we can say bye-bye to Jerry Hughes officially. I think Jerry Hughes is done. I do wonder what they're going to do with the Nico Autry. I could see a situation with the Nico Autry where they kind of say goodbye to that, which can be fine. You didn't get a ton from him. But Derek Barnett, no problem with that. So you have Barnett and Rankins. So you're kind of filling the holes right now. Like early on, you're just filling holes. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to fill holes. This might be the ultimate pivot. The Texans are kind of sitting back watching teams spend money. Now, they don't have a ton of money, but that's kind of where they're at. The Patriots right now, they got the rookie quarterback. The Bears got the rookie quarterback. Patriots just signed Carlton Davis to a 3-year, $60 million contract. $34.5 million fully guaranteed. It's per Adam Schefter. Carlton Davis is not a $20 million cornerback. This is the prime example of what happens in free agency. Carlton Davis is not a $20 million cornerback. We just saw J.C. Horn get 25 mil. Carlton Davis got 20. That's why free agency is such a crapshoot in the NFL. Because naturally, these guys are getting overpaid. Like Carlton Davis is a fine player. Good for him for getting his bread. But Carlton Davis is not a $25 million a year cornerback. Barnett gets $2.2 million last season. This season, he gets a decent upgrade, according to Texans Cap. So Derek Barnett is back with the Texans. There's definitely a Patriot tax. The Texans don't have the tax. The Texans can sign guys on bargains. The Patriots cannot. The Titans cannot. There's a tax. Black Eighth Element says this free agent class is kind of whack. Daniel Jeremiah has been kind of hammering that home for a while. That this is not a good free agency class. And it's not a bad time to not have money. Now, last year it would have been nice to take a little bit more advantage of it than the Texans did outside of Daniil Hunter. But yeah, there's definitely a tax. So Jonathan Alexander is reporting 1 year, $5 million. That's a nice chunk. That's a double. 2 tutties will do that for you. Let's credit Jonathan Alexander on here. So there you go. Derek Barnett back. So Barnett, Rankins, Berrios, areas of need, small methods of addressing them. I bet so many of these guys are completely losing their mind when it comes to not having X/Twitter right now during free agency. Biggest day of the NFL, and X is down. I got a text from someone that said that they're out on Elon. Although I think it's back up now. So it's all good. X is back. The world is normal again. Titans overpaying is crazy. I just don't understand. Like, if you look at the Titans and Jags, I don't want to say they're the same and they're doing like the exact same things, but there's a lot of similarities between Jacksonville and Tennessee and just the way in which they recklessly spend money and the way in which their organizations function. Now, I know Amy Adams stank is one thing, and then you have the Jags, who it's basically Tony Baselli running it with a decorated assistant that might have like some sort of potential, or it could be Ryan from The Office, but they just don't function very well. I'm going to change mics. They just don't function very well at all. It's not a good thing that they got going. And it's good for the Texans, but it can also be kind of misleading where you feel good because you're winning the division, but are you just winning the division because the division's bad? In other words, are you climbing or are you elevating your play? Because right now it just feels it's early in the process, but it kind of feels BOB / good Kubiak squad-ish right now. That's just kind of what it feels like with where the Texans are. What would you like to see the Texans do? What is your wish list for the Texans? I think they need to sign a guard. I don't have a preference at guard. Zeitler seems like the favorite name. I know Stoots has been throwing out fries. I have trust issues with them with the way they evaluate the offensive line, but they need to sign a guard for sure. And then they need to find some wide receivers and then maybe let the market play out. Buck Rising on Twitter. This is Buck Rising. I think he's the one. He's the guy that I trust the most for Titans news. This is what he just tweeted out. We suck luxury taxes in full effect for the Titans, I see. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. The we suck luxury tax is what the Titans have. And we saw a Texans tax. The thing about it, though, is when the Texans, they weren't really trying to spend money. They had a lot of dead cap during the Watson situation. And by the time they started spending money, they were actually a pretty popular team. With CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, they were actually a pretty popular squad. Jonathan Alexander also reported that we shouldn't be surprised if the Texans become players in a deal for 49ers linebacker Dre Greenlaw. He says, I'm not saying it'll happen, but Houston is expected to express interest in 45 minutes per source. I think that would be a good move for a linebacker core. And he said Mike Silver had that first. So the Greenlaw thing would be nice. I think the linebacking group is underrated thin. I think you could be kind of fools to D'Amico Ryans coaching these guys up to where I think that the linebacking group could definitely use some more. Cam asks, why can't we just go ahead and lock up Sting? Seeing JC Horn get so much hurts. Why does it hurt? I think that was going to be the range no matter what. And if you're thinking, you're going to race them and beat them to the punch, it's the same agent, man. He knows what he's doing. You knew the price was going to be around 25 mil. That's what it's going to be. Now, does the previous injury history factor in? Or do we just take into account what we recently saw with Derek Stingley? If we go after Greenlaw, Autry definitely getting cut. I think we're kind of getting to a point where I think the Danico Autry thing. I do think that what they're paying him in his mid-30s, and the fact that they just got Rankins for $7 million, I think we're approaching a situation where there's not going to be Danico Autry's not going to be on the squad. That would be my best bet. I mean, you see good teams have to say goodbye to good players. I'm not sitting here acting like this is the Chiefs having to get rid of someone good or Buffalo doing what they're doing. But yeah, I would see that in a situation. Taryn says, no, it wouldn't. The Texans run a 4-2-5 defensive scheme. Signing a linebacker isn't ideal. We need more cornerbacks and safeties. I would argue that they ran the 4-2-5 last year. They did run it last year, but they weren't really running it that much the year before. I think that was as much of an adjustment to Christian Harris getting hurt as much as anything. I'm not saying they're not going to run it every once in a while, but I think using Petrie the way that they used him was an adjustment to his limitations and skills and maximizing the skills and limiting the weaknesses, and filling the void left by Christian Harris. So I do think we'll see some 4-2-5, but if they had Greenlaw and they had Harris and they had Aziz Al-Shire, I think you might see more of a willingness to run a 4-3. I think it was personnel based. If you think they run a 4-2-5, they were running it a little bit after Jimmy Ward and Petrie got hurt, but they weren't running it as much. So I would say that there would be probably a little more. I don't think D'Amico is married defensively to just one set scheme. I think he's willing to do a lot of things there. Yeah, Petrie was the extra linebacker. Yeah, it was an adjustment to what D'Amico was dealt. But the wish list right now, it seems like the former 49ers are the biggest potential splashes that people are throwing out. Although I don't think the Hufanga thing happens. Never say never, but I don't think it happens. And the Dre Greenlaw situation it would be cool, but who knows? So to recap, we have Sheldon Rankins 1-year deal, Braxton Berrios on a 1-year deal. Rankins is someone that they like a lot. How much of an impact does he have? How much does he have left? We talk about every time a wide receiver gets brought up, the question is, is he washed? How much does Sheldon Rankins have left? That was the question that we were asking a couple years ago. He had a good season with the Texans. And now the question is, what has he got left now? I don't know. 7 games played last year. We'll see. How about these guys, the DK Metcalfs and the Devontae Adams? I almost feel bad for them because they're getting mocked because stuff is being put out there of what they desire in free agency, and it's not coming straight from them. Like DK Metcalf obviously wants the big contract. That's obvious. But they said he wants to win and he wants stability. That's pretty much what everyone wants. And then I think Devontae wanted warm weather. He ended up going to Seattle, so he didn't get that. But the agents put something out, or the reporters put something out, and then as soon as these guys sign, they're immediately getting mocked. It's wild. Look at this. Look at this bag for Jordan Lewis, Jacksonville. 3 years, $30 million. This feels like, this is like, if you told me that Jordan Lewis was getting 3 years, 30 mil, I would say, okay, that's Jacksonville or Tennessee. That's Jacksonville, Tennessee. Yeah, Devontae Rams, excuse me. Devontae Rams. I was talking about DK in the warm weather. Devontae Rams, yes. So he did get what he wanted. And by the way, the Rams, that kind of throws the theory of the Cooper Kupp. Well, they're just getting rid of Cooper Kupp and they're not going to invest in wide receiver. Well, they damn sure did. They damn sure did invest in wide receiver. They got Devontae. DK got paid like the guy that he wasn't. I agree. I did not know that DK Metcalf was as popular as he was, but that never made sense either. I was never really high on the DK Metcalf possibility. The Texans, their superpower, if they're going to establish a superpower, their superpower needs to be draft. And that's the path to the Texans, and the path to the Texans being a really, really good squad. It's the draft. That's what it is. The draft and within is the path for the Texans. They're not going to win free agency. They can win free agency after the fact. But as far as like the day after, whenever you see ESPN and you see the winners and the losers of free agency, that ship has sailed for the Texans. They got elite guys. Their elite guys got to elevate the guys around them. That hidden value, that iron sharpening iron stuff that a lot of times kind of gets an eye roll from myself. That's what the Texans got to do now. CJ Stroud elevating himself. Derek Stingley elevating. Kamari Lassiter elevating. Kalen Bullock elevating. Will Anderson elevating. That, and then hitting a home run in the draft, kind of similar to what they did last year. That's the key. But there's a 0% chance at this point in the process that the Texans are gonna win free agency. Right off the top. All right, we have another signing to report. This is from Tom Pelissaro. The Texans are bringing back Tramon Smith. Okay. So Tramon Smith is back with the Texans. Jonathan Alexander says that he's wanted to be here for a while. So there you go. 2-year deal worth up to $7.5 million. Tramon Smith, according to Tom Pelissaro. This was done at the This was done by Matt Gloss. That's when you know that the agent gave it to him. According to Jonathan Alexander says that he has long wanted to return to Houston. Now they're bringing him back. So you're bringing back Tramon Smith. That cornerback depth, I guess. I kind of thought of Tramon Smith as much of a return guy as anything. So maybe this kind of impacts what Dameon Pierce will be. That seems like the main value for Dameon Pierce. He was an NFL all-rookie returner. We saw him with the Texans. He had a good season. I know he was a Detroit guy. He had the 98-yard kick return touchdown when they beat the Jags. So this is kind of a special teams type of reserve corner, and they needed reserve corner help. They needed reserve corner help. So there you go, corner help, kick return. Dameon Pierce, you got to be able to play running back now. You got to be able to play running back now. Just being a kick returner is not going to work for you. At all. Black Eighth Element said,
You ain't never had
Swarm
for the building fund. Don't even know what that means, but I appreciate you very much, my friend. We just signed Tramon Smith. Where is this money coming from? Cap is fake. It's fake. It's like a credit card. You just push it back. I don't know where Jimmy Ward fits into this thing. I don't know where. I think today, like, you've got to think that the Jimmy Ward ship might have sailed and the Nico Autry ship might have sailed. I would say we could see those guys kind of rolling out. But no guard. I think people are getting kind of overzealous about the guards. Team player says, I'm excited with DP in a new system. Okay. Are you really? Kind of feel like I've heard that. It was excited for him in year 2 of the system, excited for him in this system. I think we're kind of good on that. I do wonder what Nick Haley thinks about him. It's at least an interesting watch. I don't think the film nerds are like overly thrilled about Dameon Pierce. But to those of you keeping score at home, Tramon Smith, 2 years, $7.5 million deal. He's back. Braxton Berrios and Sheldon Rankins, along with Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett is back. So you kind of fill that out. Derek Barnett is back. Roberto says we have to get a running back in the draft. I would agree. At some point, you're going to have to figure something out there and get a running back. What does this mean for Pierce? It means he's going to have to be able to play running back. He's going to have to be able to play running back. Period. It's not like Tramon Smith's he's a better, more established kick returner than Dameon Pierce. So it's a non-negotiable thing for him. Gonna have to. That's what Tramon Smith kind of does. He didn't really do it much in Denver last year, or the 2 previous years, but he's done it for a while. But they're not going to bring back Dameon Pierce just for kick returning when they have him on the roster. Quite frankly, Don't really know how valuable that is. He actually started out as a running back, interestingly enough, Tramon Smith. So kind of a blah day. Cedric says his two available once, Ryan Kelly and James Daniels. Ryan Kelly's interesting. At one point, he was regarded as one of the better centers in the league. God, how many different quarterbacks has he had to snap to? It's got to be a little bit exhausting. It would be nice to have some stability at the position. I don't know how much he has left. And I also don't know that they've really given up on Juice Scruggs as a center option. You heard Caserio the other day say that he said that this was the other day, this was months ago. He thought that Juice was a better center than guard. Do they really believe that? It looks very similar. But Juice Scruggs, I don't know what Justin Britt's up to. God, he was cooked. He was really cooked. So no offensive line. That seems to be kind of the frustration. The Lions are signing DJ Reed to a 3-year, $48 million contract per the Starbucks baby. So the Lions spending a little bit of bread. 3 years, 48 for DJ Reed. DJ Reed does kind of have that Dan Campbell Lions-ish attitude. If Aaron Glenn were still there, I would say this was perfect. I'm assuming that they're going to try to maintain that same type of mentality. DJ Green kind of seems to have that. Running back. We have a running back signing. Kansas City Chiefs. Elijah Mitchell, 1 year, $3.5 million. Don't you just always assume whenever the Chiefs sign a running back that he's going to make some sort of key contribution in a big game? Can't you just already envision, when you hear Elijah Mitchell to the Chiefs, don't you just already envision, oh my gosh, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are going to be talking about this guy breaking boys off? Mad at free agency. Astro Rocket Texan says, always trying to keep trash. Yeah, the Texans have welcomed back 2 guys today. They're letting Derek Barnett stay, but Tramon Smith and Sheldon Rankins. You can go in your closet and you can whip out the Sheldon Rankins, Tramon Smith jerseys. They do seem to love their guys and welcome them back. Maybe DeAndre Hopkins has a Hopkins has a chance. Maybe we will get a Nuke Hopkins. A Nuke Hopkins signing. I mean, they're bringing back worse. It's not why we can't win a chip. Can't block. It's hard to win a chip. But they're not preventing themselves from winning championships because they're not signing, because they're signing Tramon Smith and Sheldon Rankins. But they brought him home. Bring him home. I agree, Taze. I agree. Where is this coming from? Why would anyone want to trade Davis Mills? I don't understand this. You're not the only person that says this. Why is that even a talking point? Why would anyone want to trade Davis Mills? He's an affordable, really good backup. There's no point in trading Davis Mills. No reason for that. Bears always spending money and always suck. I don't know that they've had money like this. I actually like what the Bears have done. And let's take a look at what the Bears have done today. The Bears have they already added Joe Tunney. And now they've added center Drew Dahlman. I think they're doing well. Like, would you rather do what the Bears are doing right now or what the Texans did with their offensive line? Like, the Texans did the Titus and Shaq thing. I think the Bears are doing a good job with Caleb Williams. I think they've actually done a good job. They do suck, but they haven't had this opportunity where they feel good about Caleb Williams. Now, the generational talent and stuff, I think we kind of tapped the brakes on that. You can make a case that he was the third best rookie quarterback last year. I don't even think you have to make a case. Daniels was clearly number one. Drake May might have been number two. But now the Bears have Caleb Williams, and they're doing a good job with him. I think this is good money for them. I'm saying that because people act like we can't win a bowl because we're not spending money. I don't know about that. Are people acting like that? It's free agency. You know how free agency is. There's always the one free agency. But go back and look. It's a fun exercise. Go back and look at the who won free agency articles and then look at what it looks like 2 years after the fact, 1 year after the fact. It very rarely pays off. Very rarely pays off. I think Caserio will be able to figure some stuff out when it comes to that. The Sheldon Rankins thing was the worst kept secret. But you got to wonder who is D'Amico targeting on that defense. I don't think the Ravens always win free agency. I don't think that's true. I think they always win the draft. Free agency, they'll spend every once in a while. But I think they're more of a win the draft type of squad. I think the biggest AFC South, and it is the locker room live stream, free agency live streaming, reacting to what's going on with the Texans and around the league. The biggest happening today is from an AFC South perspective. I think it's become a little bit more apparent that Cam Ward is going to be the pick for the Titans. I mean, they're spending that money on the offensive line. It's almost like what we see in Chicago, what we saw with the Texans, although it wasn't great. They're looking to protect the rookie quarterback. I think that's where they're headed. And from a Texans perspective, I don't know that really scares anybody. I don't know that anyone's really scared of Cam Ward. He could end up being really good. I mean, hell, look at when the Jags got Trevor Lawrence. You thought that it was basically the Jags division and they'd have it on lock. That hasn't gone according to plan. I don't think too many people anticipated CJ Stroud having one of the best rookie seasons of all time. That happened. So fear among quarterbacks taken near the top. A lot of times the result is not proportional to the fear, but I think it's the right move for the Titans at this point. You got to swing for the fence. Would you rather be in a situation where you're talking about Aaron Rodgers or you're talking about Geno Smith or something like that? Or would you rather just roll the dice on a rookie quarterback? It's not like the past where the contract was going to set your franchise back. But that's what Tennessee's going to do. Texans are just filling holes right now. I think the secondary market's going to be the area where they really do damage. A lot of these guys who think that they're going to get deals, Maybe Dre Greenlaw doesn't get what he wants. Maybe Dre Greenlaw's in a situation where he's got to sign a 1 or couple year deal. Maybe we see like an Azeez Al-Shire type of move for him. Reunited with D'Amico Ryans. Right now, they're just filling holes. They don't have a lot of money to play with. So the 2-year deal for a while was the 2-year deal. Might be in kind of the 1-year deal situation. I did find it interesting that Jonathan Alexander was talking about how Tramon Smith has long wanted to return to Houston, and now they're bringing him back. Was he just dying to be back? Pelissaro, you can tell Pelissaro got this right from the agent. I always love these reports. The deal makes Smith the highest paid core special teamer in the NFL next year. Was done by Matt Close at Generation Sports Group. So this is kind of a Frank Ross type move. Got to wonder how this impacts the other guys that the Texans have that are free agents that are potentially special teams guys. Tramon Smith. Important if it does solidify your special teams. Special teams has been one of the strengths of the Texans, and Frank Ross knows him very well. So maybe, hey, this is something nobody's talking about. This might excite some people. If you want to get excited, this might be the end of Chris Boyd. Pour one out for Chris Boyd. R.I.P. Chris Boyd. That is the good news from this. R.I.P. Chris Boyd. I think we can say RIP to Autry potentially after today with the Sheldon Rankins and the Barnett. I just don't think $11 million for someone that can potentially wreak havoc is going to, and quite frankly, like what would you rather have on third down, Sheldon Rankins on the inside or Nico Autry at this point? I think D'Amico would rather have Sheldon Rankins. So I don't even know if there's a spot for Nico Autry on the squad. So I would say RIP Autry. I think we see them move on from him. And then Chris Boyd. Frustrated a lot of people last year. You have now one of the highest paid special teams guys in the league. That would be my thoughts. The two guys most negatively impacted, potentially Texans. Would be Boyd. We'll see how it goes. How it goes there. Maybe they keep him. Maybe Frank Ross was like, man, I know Chris Boyd's kind of developing into one of my special teams aces. But you know what? He pushed me in front of everyone. Tramon, how you been? Come on down. Into Chris Boyd. We hardly knew you, man. Gilmer's finest. The man in Gilmer. Good old Christopher. There's a lot of people that aren't overwhelmed by the Texans wide receiving situation. And look, the reality is that in hindsight, the Stephon Diggs deal is going to look really bad. It's going to look really, really, really bad when we look back on it. Like it's and I don't think it's going to take too long. But even with that, they did not anticipate that Tank Dell was going to not play likely in 2025. So the wide receiver situation, you go from making a move that was going to look bad to also having the surprise and the heartbreak of losing Tank Dell for how long you lost him. There was not going to be like some sort of like home run situation to fix this wide receiver group. There's just too much there. There's just too much there and too much going on. So the Texans find themselves in that situation. A lot of it is self-inflicted when you talk about the Diggs thing, but they did not anticipate the Tank Dell thing. They've also believed in John Mechie. That hasn't worked out. So when you look at the wide receiver and you look at the top and you look at the bottom, it's bad luck combined with bad decisions. So when you see the Braxton Berrios signing and you immediately laugh, yeah, not great. But it's also just kind of an indictment in the overall situation that you're dealing with at the wide receiver spot. So that's where they're at. I know there's a lot of people losing their mind without the X today. And I do not blame you. I'm going to take a break. We'll be back at 4:00 SNL. Cody Stoots is streaming. He's the king of the offseason. Make no mistake about it. Cody Stoots is the king of the offseason. SNL will be live at 4. Night stream tonight at 10:30 when we have kind of a view of what's gone on. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. We'll react to what the Texans do. And always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through.